Bless Steven Spielberg. The man makes some simple movies. It doesn't matter if they're the children family movies or high-minded Oscar bait. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, especially when it comes to making movies that appeal to a wide audience. Indeed, he's likely the highest grossing director ever. One of the members of the so-called American New Wave or New Hollywood that emerged after the collapse of the old studio system, Spielberg's movies have pioneered the summer blockbuster and the use of CGI. He's been responsible for making the defining films for at least a couple of generations of children, and his 3-hour or so long epics have earned the praise of his peers and critics at award shows. With a career that has now spanned 5 decades, there were plenty of movies for us to consider for this top 10 ranking. Any of the 29 feature-length theatrically released motion pictures that he directed from 1974's The Sugarland Express to 2016's The BFG could have made the list. Okay, 1941 isn't on it. Without further ado, let's rank Spielberg's top 10 best movies, but be aware, spoilers herein. At number 10, Lincoln. A lot has been written about the historical accuracy and lack thereof in Lincoln. The movie's central political dilemma of the passage of the 13th Amendment is a largely conflated drama, as historians like Eric Foner have pointed out. That is, slavery was particularly dead from the Civil War anyways, and there was no need to delay the war's end to pass the amendment because Republicans would have easily passed it a couple months later in a special session with their supermajority. So instead of historical accuracy, we get a good episode of The West Wing, plus the white savior trope. And as still others have already said, and screenwriter Tony Kushner has practically admitted, the movie is really a defense of then-President Obama. The defense of compromising and deal-making for the sake of advancing principles, I guess. Accurately representing history is hard, so sure, why not just make it a parable for the politics of today instead? But the acting is great, especially Daniel Day-Lewis. 2 hours and 30 minutes of speechifying by any actor besides him probably wouldn't have made this list. Sally Field brings empathy to a historical figure much maligned as a nutcase, and we get a sense of Mary Todd Lincoln's political involvement too. And as far as historical revival, the movie is most impressive in its service to the representation of Thaddeus Stevens, portrayed wonderfully by Tommy Lee Jones. It's certainly better than the previously most famous version of him in the 1915 racist epic, The Birth of a Nation. At number 9, E.T., the Extraterrestrial. Let's be honest, E.T. is kind of stupid. Even ignoring that E.T. phones home with a device made out of a speak-and-spell toy and ordinary household items, the cringeworthy bicycle chase, the Star Wars synergy, or that the alien spaceship farts rainbows and continues to blow wind on the Earthlings even after it's vacated the atmosphere. The film has a suspect message for children. That is, kids shouldn't trust adults in science, especially sciencey adults. Hide stuff from your parents, even an ugly alien Muppet who temporarily steals your life force and telepathically gets you drunk. Damn be neglectful single mothers, right? I mean, are those teenagers smoking and pointing a finger at the moms behind? Jeesh. What about science teachers trying to shove their learning anatomy agenda down our throats? Screw them too. And worst of all, are those menacing scientists searching for an alien so that they can, gasp, try to save his life? Evil pricks. The movie is such manipulative hooey too, with perhaps the most overblown score ever by John Williams. Grown-ass professional film critics admit to crying over this movie. Saps. So why did we include this movie on our list? Other than that almost seemingly being legally obligated to include the director's most cherished film on any such list, it's entertaining enough for a kiddie flick. It's a coherent narrative, anti-science, and pro-magic and stupidity to boot. The Earth-related ignorance of E.T. and his struggle to master simple motor skills mirrors Earth children's own such struggles. The movie is a haptic and sight-based, hide-and-seek really, alternative to the cerebral, musical, and mostly unseen aliens of Close Encounters. And there's some really humorous moments, especially from a young Drew Barrymore. At number 8, Catch Me If You Can. This clever con artist movie stands out as uncharacteristic in Spielberg's filmography, probably because he took over the project late. Nevertheless, we do get a somewhat typical lost childhood theme from Spielberg concerning the protagonist's longing for his idealized family. Otherwise, the narrative is framed in a few ways, which removes any surprise of the con and instead makes the movie all about the chase and allows us to revel in the exploits of the con artist. Leonardo DiCaprio, by playing this con artist, gets to be an actor playing an actor. Tom Hanks is serviceable, I guess, although his performance has been criticized by others. There's a young Amy Adams, and Christopher Walken, nominated for an Oscar here, takes a break from playing caricatures of himself. The movie also has anti-French and anti-mother bits thrown in for some reason. Regardless, this is an enjoyable caper even if it's little more than a pastiche of the 60s culture and movies it references. At number 7, Minority Report. This is another movie that doesn't seem a natural fit for the director, and the complex themes of Big Brother, thought crime, and murder mystery whodunit from a story by Philip K. Dick may have been better in the hands of someone else. But it's still an interesting sci-fi action flick. One nice literary touch is that the 3 precogs are named after famous detective novelists. Agatha, after Agatha Christie, Arthur, after Arthur Conan Doyle, and Dashiell, after Dashiell Hammett. The bleached look, desaturated color scheme, and high contrast lighting lend to the movie's overall tech-noir style. There's also some well-conceptualized future technology, and the casting overall is good, although featuring Tom Cruise the runner in the lead does tilt the movie more towards an emphasis on action than perhaps desired by fans of intelligent sci-fi and film noir. The movie's ending especially has been criticized. One can see where the happy ending could have been subverted, by either having it be the dream of Cruise's character, who would still be imprisoned, similar to the film Brazil, or the final helicopter zoom out of the home on the island could have been a mere simulacrum by explicitly referencing the similar ending of Solaris. At number 6, Jurassic Park. It's Jaws on land marketed to children, but this kiddie horror thriller is well made, and it was particularly influential on today's ubiquity of CGI-heavy blockbusters. Although Jurassic Park actually relies a lot on good old-fashioned practical effects. The narrative is straightforward and fully develops at least 1 or 2 character arcs, with a man who doesn't care much for children, but who learns a lesson by saving a couple of brats, and a Willy Wonka-type amusement park proprietor who doesn't seem to value human life at all, but changes his tune after the lives of his grandchildren are in danger. The typical Spielbergian wonderment is locked in with the realization of dinosaurs, and there are plenty of dumb jokes, a couple of sexism ones.
We can discuss sexism in survival situations when I get back.
Some lawyer ones, the stereotypical gluttonous slob Newman as the baddie, Jeff Goldblum's entire character, etc. The movie is great, however, at building suspense. The rippling water shots and turning on the electric fence scenes stand out, and those parts don't even show dinosaurs. At number 5, Raiders of the Lost Ark. This fantasy action-adventure is full of humor and irony and contains a well-paced plot contingent upon a series of cliffhangers in the fashion of the serials that Spielberg and George Lucas grew up on. The comedic excess excuses the ridiculousness of it, as well as perhaps helping one to overlook any racial or sexual political incorrectness, even the series of damsel in distress cliffhangers. Anyways, Nazis are the baddies, and that's always okay. Harrison Ford leads in one of the most iconic roles. John Williams provides another memorable score, and the visual effects are quite good for the time. Contrary to a popular theory, Indiana Jones also is relevant to the story.
Indiana Jones plays no role in the outcome of the story. Like, if he weren't in the film, it would turn out exactly the same.
Oh, I see your confusion. You don't understand. Indiana Jones was the one in the hat with the whip.
Without him, the girl is probably dead, or at least maimed, and many Nazis and a monkey would still be alive. Plus, even if the Nazis did find the Ark, the US might not have it in the end. Maybe it'd still be on an island in the Aegean Sea. The real point is that the actual story, the Ark and all, are inconsequential. What matters is that we follow Indy through a series of escapades and cliffhangers, which is also why it had spawned so many sequels about equally unimportant artifacts, or as Alfred Hitchcock called them, MacGuffins. At number 4, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. This may not be Spielberg's best movie, but it's his cleverest one. Close Encounters isn't just about UFOs and aliens, it's about filmmaking. The people who experience close encounters with the UFOs express their shared vision artistically in making paintings and sculpture. The focus on light and music by the aliens also self-reflexively calls attention to the art of filmmaking. Hinting that this was Spielberg's intentions is the casting at the helm to interpret the alien messages and direct mankind's response is French New Wave filmmaker and critic Francois Truffaut. The film's climactic mountaintop encounter is essentially Truffaut's character directing the movie, lights, camera, music, and all. Richard Dreyfuss plays the other main character in the film. He continually sneaks into Truffaut's production until the director relents and casts him in a central part. Not unlike reportedly how the real-life Dreyfuss pestered Spielberg for the role in Close Encounters. The movie also manages to effectively express wonder over aliens without being pro-stupid like E.T., although it also portrays governments as partially menacing. Not to mention reckless spendaholics. How much would a cover-up including the staging of dead animals and the evacuation of Wyoming cost? Seriously. At number 3, Jaws. The prototypical wide-release summer blockbuster and one-time highest-grossing film ever, Jaws helped redefine the new Hollywood business model and became a cultural phenomenon. It's also a great monster horror film and a taut thriller, with an iconic soundtrack, effective and sparing use of jump scares, and well-crafted practical effects. King Kong for a new generation. The acting is good too, with just enough character information to make the leads interesting enough for some male bonding, but not so much as to drown the plot. There's also an island cop who's afraid of water, a shark expert who was born with a silver spoon in his mouth, and a veteran shark attack survivor turned shark hunter. Robert Shaw especially should have at least received an Oscar nom for his memorable performance. At number 2, Saving Private Ryan. The first 20 minutes or so of this movie, minus the schmaltzy prologue, is one of the most amazing opening sequences in movie history. The shaky handheld camera work, the bullets in the water, the blood and the gore, the slow motion shell shock.
What the hell do we do now, sir?
Even the gritty look of the sand have all been imitated since and have made a lasting impression. The sequence perfectly encapsulates the confusion and horror of battle. If there's a fault in this movie, it's that the rest of it can't live up to this sequence, even though the final battle is pretty good in its own right. The typical Spielberg symbolism has the mission to save Private Ryan serve as a microcosm for the war in general, or any war, leading the men to agonize over what's worth them dying for. The movie also has some good representations of PTSD and the traumas of war, from Captain Miller's almost literal shell shock to Upham's paralysis in battle. It's too bad that Tom Hanks won 2 Oscars already for lesser performances, because this might be his best. The supporting cast is strong too. This movie also led Spielberg and Hanks to produce some excellent TV miniseries. And finally, at number 1, Schindler's List. Similar to how Saving Private Ryan demonstrated the horrors of World War II with its opening D-Day sequence, but then examined the war's meaning through the act of saving one soldier, Schindler's List demonstrates the tragedy of the Holocaust with the horrifying massacre in the Krakow ghetto, and in a rather more cinematically contrived way, threatens more terror in the scenes of Auschwitz. For the most part, however, the film focuses on the good and evil duality of 2 Nazis, Oskar Schindler and Eamon Goeth, portrayed by Liam Neeson and Ralph Fiennes, respectively, both of whom were nominated for Oscars. Photographically, the 2 figures are large and prominent in this film's shots compared to the Jewish characters. Overall, the black and white photography is excellent, including the employment of a shaky camera and sparing use of color, and the screenplay does well to develop the redemption and savior narrative of Schindler. The ending and John Williams' scores are maudlin, as some have criticized, but they're impactful. Thanks for watching. We'd like to read your rankings and thoughts on Spielberg and his movies in the comments below, and please, like and subscribe.
This is magnificent.
Oh yeah, that's how it always starts. But then later there's running and screaming.